Welcome back, everybody. Just 3 games remaining for EMEA here at the GLL Apex Legends series. My name is Parn and I'm your desk host. And I'm still joined by Glitter and Onset?
No. It's me.
Oh, hey, Bravo. How's it going, buddy? Great to have you back on the desk.
Great to be back. I mean, you guys have been crushing the breakdown so far, and I think we've had some pretty interesting games in Europe again. I think if in terms of seeing some surprises yesterday and then transitioning to even new stuff today has been pretty great.
Bravo Squad, mount up.
Oh, boy.
By the way,
this is going to go on the whole time.
Best part of the show is that the Bravo Squad wasn't a thing. I actually don't know where it came from, but Paula founded it yesterday during the show, and I've been pretty hyped on it since.
I was merely the messenger for a spiritual... for you, your spirit, brother.
Okay.
I am eternally appreciative for it.
I wasn't even invited.
Well,
so.
Glitter, I appreciate him telling us that we've been crushing it. Look, everyone's welcome in Bravo Squad. We're going to sort this out during the break. But you've been crushing smorgasbords or whatever the hell that bread was you were eating.
So I was just telling, and actually Glitter saw it before I did, but that thing was packed at the center with mashed potatoes too. So that thing is keeping me pretty happy for a while.
So Apex.
It's not my type of food, but yeah.
It was good.
Anyway, guys, let's get into the thick of it. Let's talk about game number 4. Yeah, as we have established, just 3 matches remaining. Just a few opportunities now to try and cinch that #1 spot. LG currently holding it strong and steadfast. Glitter, what do you think we might see in this matchup, game number 4 of day 2?
So technically, for day 2, we've once again not had a repeat winner. We have repeat overall, right, for across both days, but we've had a different winner every single game. I'd like to continue that trend.
Yeah, I think...
Especially because they're all teams, with the exception of VP so far, that didn't do well yesterday.
Right, and it's very different from North America, where you're seeing wins dictate the leaderboard in its entirety, and essentially amongst the top 5, you only have a very select few winners, and it's a very different case in Europe, which is exciting to see, and it'd be great to continue to see that through their games today.
I'm loving the T-shirt, by the way, bamboozled with a little Mirage on it.
It's for the Mirage Voyage. That's why he wore it.
I was going to say, Glitter, we saw the Mirage Voyage, the actual part.
You guys see the party?
Yeah,
you were
in
there
the map,
for it.
right? That was
it's awesome. Short-lived.
First time we've seen it.
Short-lived, but it was a great party.
Yeah, they got some decent loot in there, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah,
Glitter, you mentioned that.
They had a nice digi, right? Just right there waiting for him.
Right next to the jacuzzi. Yeah.
All right, well, we are about 1 minute away from going live with the game. Glitter and Bravo, would you like to say anything else before we head over to our casters?
I will never hold up a game of Apex. I say let's get into the games.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, well, Onset and Dreadnought, if you are ready, please go ahead and take it away.
Much like Bravo was, we're always ready. Dreadnought's always ready, and we're very excited to get into these final 3 games now of the EMEA regions and the opportunity to finally crown our first champion here in Stockholm. Dread, we're super excited. We've kind of been talking through the permutations of where we are at the moment. Luminosity Gaming obviously have a fantastic position right now. Top of the table, around a 20-point lead ahead of their nearest competitor. And we were kind of saying, okay, what needs to happen now for the chasing pack to close that gap?
And it definitely means Luminosity has to have at least one very, very bad game, right? There's always a world where they could consistently place like middle of the pack to where somebody, if they do well over and over, could overtake them. But I think it's fair to say Luminosity probably has to take one where, you know, they're squad 20 to be able to drop out, or at least the first 10, I think, for them to be far enough out of this race.
And then we were looking down and we were sort of trying to discuss who is going to be that team, should we get into that 12th and final game, who are chasing down that lead, who might have to make that decision to essentially try and disrupt Luminosity, right? If you want to become a champion, we have to stop them scoring. You were thinking VP.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I'll be honest. I've always been biased to them. I like their thought process and their play. I think that you can see the thought process and it's very well thought out, but there's a level of aggression that I can't help but feel like Luminosity is the more exaggerated version of that. That makes me fanboy behind them now, but Virtus Pro was the first to really have that for me. And so all the rest of the squads, I just have a hard time relying on that because they haven't had long-term, highly successful performances, whereas VP's held their own pretty well.
Yeah, we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on that kill feed and seeing if Luminosity do drop early in any of these games, because it really does open the door to so many teams, not just the likes of Reciprocity and Virtus Pro, but Alliance still very much in with a chance, and even Papega Squadron, I would say, and Wisener still in a position where, with a big game and a couple of decent placements in these final 3 games, they could really be challenging for that top spot.
And because Wisener is such a statistical outlier in the placement point category. There is a realm where I guess if you were to ask me the other one, it would be somehow Wyzen just starts killing stuff. You know what I mean? They get the same placements, but they're suddenly lethal. They actually could be in that position to definitely dominate.
And they could find themselves in that position because, as you mentioned, placement-wise, incredibly consistent.
Probably the
across.
most,
Exactly,
honestly.
and you just need one of those games where you find yourself in that final 5, in that final circle, a couple of grenades, a couple of teams not looking at you, a couple of teams rotating late with not the armor they would want, and all of a sudden 9 kills is on the board, you have a victory, and you propel yourself to the top of the table. But I think it's only right that we follow this story of VP right now. The team, alongside Reciprocity, who are chasing Luminosity Gaming, obviously the team who won our last game as well, and they have to be feeling confident.
Yeah, and they start themselves off here in Lava City, so loot-wise going to be feeling pretty confident as well. This is an area we have been talking about quite a bit as being one of the better drop zones, but I don't think we've actually gotten a first-hand experience of what it looked like to watch and witness the team drop here, and I think they showcased the value of the drop very quickly. Finding an R99 with a purple extended light mag is about as good as it gets, really. You know, tier 1 weapon with the only attachment you really need on it.
Yes, definitely what you want to be finding. And we're back to the Mirage Voyage. Back to the party, and no surprise to see once again, Dreadnought, you being involved with the party animal that you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be Samsung, who are going to be sat here at the moment. Samsung Morningstars, who haven't had the best of performances, we have to say, throughout the weekend at the moment. Currently sat in 13th place, but as one of those qualifying teams, you have to say 13th place, maybe not the most disappointing for them.
I'm sorry. This is the first time I got to see that they actually had that as a disco ball, and that was a clever touch respawn.
That's meta thinking, isn't it?
It really was. That was cute. Oh my goodness here. Sorry. Every time we get a glance at this again, this has been the only perspective I've been able to get, again, because it's such a new patch, and we're on our way here to partake in it. But great little piece here. I just want to know if Mirage is allowed to, you know, cry at his party there. You think that's the case there? Is it big enough his?
Hey, man, it's his party. He can do what he wants, right?
I think so.
I think that's pretty much how the rules work of partying. I'd have to ask you, of course, as I said, bring the personal party animal that you are. But we're going to jump on board with another team here as we're fighting our way through Sorting Factory. And it's going to be the first real challenge that we're going to be seeing, and it doesn't look to be going too well for this team at the moment. Last player alive is going to be there, and it's going to be Gambit, I believe, if I can just make it out through the pixels. It's going to be Hot Drops, a team who we haven't been talking too much about once again, who are maybe making a hot drop here and looking to cause a bit of a ruckus to this leaderboard.
Yeah, it's a nice start there for them, and definitely going to be needed here. Again, we've been talking about which teams really needed to be able to mix it up, and very much on their side. And the fact that they're able to get whatever breathing room just kind of tuning into this banana building fight at Sorting Factory. You got Golden Armor sitting on top of what was the Watson, now transitioning that over to Wraiths. So things look good to be able to back off and, you know, breathe here. They didn't get a full wipe onto the squad with all 20, but at least crippling here, again, as you pointed out, was Gambit Artico, who went down.
Now, one thing I want to kind of highlight to people who might have not just called it, you've had another opportunity there to see where this circle is moving. It's moving to the most northeasterly part of the map, and if there's one team who are going to be all smiles when all is considered with the way that that circle's moving, Luminosity Gaming are going to be very, very happy. And one team who are going to be pretty pissed, to be honest with you, has got to be VP. VP at the completely other end of the map. They've got to traverse a lot of land before they get involved.
Yeah, they've got themselves, you know, whether you want to trek through Capital City, if you somehow decide to neglect that, you still have to transition through the geyser, which is never going to be an easy trek there. But I think that's a great point that you bring up. We actually have not seen Luminosity get a northeastern drop. So suddenly it's that weird moment of, is that going to benefit them or hurt them? Because I will raise the point of some of the more struggling late game and mid to late game decision making coming out from LG has actually been when they don't have to go that far. It's been the Capital City drop that we got in game number 3 here today.
I'd say the only real example maybe we've had a Luminosity having not too much of a rotation to make was when they got that second place, when we had that very north base circle just by the train tracks, by the tunnel, and it was Reciprocity who actually managed to get the win there. So two teams to certainly keep an eye out on. You can see Skyhook landing for Reciprocity means they will have that rotation through the tunnel towards that side of the map, and they could be two teams who are finding out towards this end circle.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you do bring up there with that. And so I guess I do find that interesting for Luminosity and how much of a focus it will be there for them. But Wyzen, again, the other team that has been probably the most consistent on that placement, but they got to find a way to be able to get those kills. Conveniently, they're postured pretty well over that final circle. As you saw them pinging down, actually, they indicate they think that this is going to be the final circle, and Reciprocity already posted up.
Yeah, deja vu. This is exactly where Reciprocity won the game from yesterday. The teams that were involved in that final battle were Saw pushing through the tunnel. It was LG who had to fight their way through numerous different teams, to be honest with you, before they finally encountered Reciprocity. And and almost the same here, the same rotation from the Rotatos that we saw them fall to last time this circle was here. It looks like they want another crack at it.
Yeah, let's see if it works here this time for them, as I believe they did end up getting an armor crack there with that 26 coming through. Jib Dome does go down, stopping the advance here. It should be noted that they have to deal with reciprocity here onto the right-hand side if they do break that kind of 90-degree threshold, which is where those shots kind of flinging across did come through.
Reciprocity, I was going to say, I'm interested to see where they're going to be involved in this battle. If they're going to poke too much, they're going to try and pick up a few kills to close that gap onto Luminosity, and that's something they have to be aware of as well. Any opportunity to thirst on third party some kills, Rec need to take that at this point with only 3 games remaining.
Yeah, no, it's very, very important that they find a way to be able to establish that as soon as they can. And also, looking into this tight corridor to be able to join in the battle is Samsung Morningstar. So to give an example of the image here, this is the western approach to Reciprocity in that tunnel where we ended up seeing, again, that roster moving in from the south to the northern section here with Soar sitting at the back end of it. We have 5 to 6 teams all in this little T on the northern section of the map.
Yeah, but that Soar player just got absolutely nailed in the face by a shot, and that means he's going to have to back up. And it's so interesting here to see that the same teams are almost posturing for exactly the same position on the same circle that we saw yesterday. It's about if they can pull off the same results, or if the 2 teams who didn't quite get the job done yesterday can get it done now.
He got the first arc into the dome, so he's going to go ahead and Wraith Portal right through the Devotion with the flank here coming out from Limek, but he finds the first knock. Got to have to reload here as 2 end up going down there onto what was Samsung Morningstars. And they're definitely mourning here as they end up struggling there in the fight. Reciprocity, though, do move out of their home base.
Oh,
maybe
this could be painful, though.
Why did they end up moving so far out of their home? They knew that that was going to be the circle, feeling a bit too confident, maybe eager here coming out from Reciprocity after that last victory in the same circle.
Yeah, maybe they thought that was the opportunity for that third party. Maybe they thought that was their opportunity to take on that team. However, the fact that Samsung Morningstars won that battle with taking so little damage means they were able to return fire and back up Reciprocity. That was a little bit of a lucky escape there for Rec.
Yeah, it very much was. That was absolutely wild on the initiation attempt there. And again, from the southern approach to all of this battle is the Potatoes. Our first glance, again, into this T, as Soar was the one struggling there with the initial battle into Samsung Morningstars, getting sandwiched in between Reciprocity, and they end up going down. So now we do reside here with about 3 teams still into this T, each owning one section of this here. This is going to be Samsung Morningstars. But Reciprocity have the highest value, and I think that's the biggest thing to talk about, is they know that is going to be the end point, and that is where everybody eventually has to go.
Yeah, they really do have the best position on the map as far as end circle potential is concerned. Of course, there are a few different circles around there, and it can pull away for different areas, but they have the easiest rotations away towards those final circles. Na'Vi now making that long trek across the map, and they finally work their way into Refinery, and we've just saw a little picture in our top right-hand corner there. That circle might be doing some funny things.
Yeah, it is not where Reciprocity posted up. Granted, as you already highlighted, they still have the best rotations out, and that's the biggest benefit for them. It's going to be much heavier here towards Refinery, which we see Luminosity so cleverly posted here into one of the columns. And you know very well about this, I'm sure, Onset. Talking about some of these back cylinder Refinery finishes are very, very unique. There's a lot of different ways that this can end if it is going to be a Refinery drop.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And one thing that I do like to see is the Pathfinder in these circles. Yes. You can get right on top of those silos. You can drop down at the final moment. You can use a zip line to do exactly what we saw yesterday. We didn't actually see yesterday, but on Twitter, if you go back and watch the way the Saw won that game, I mean, just flip-flopping above that end circle on that Pathfinder zipline is such a good way to just extend your life and really put yourself in a great position to close it out.
Yeah, and the reasoning, again, back on that Pathfinder, why is such a focus? You're talking about that elevation, right? Those big cylinders, for anybody who doesn't play Pathfinder and you're like, why is this so relevant? This is one of those potential ending areas that has those silos sitting on top. He can help you zip up on top of those. The sorting factory itself, clearly anybody can make it up to, but then on those circular, I don't know, very nuclear-looking kind of
silos,
structures, I guess, very much also have a zip line passage up there. You can actually get your entire team up there to kind of sit up there and just kind of camp. And basically, if you don't have a path, there is no counterplay once you get to those later circles.
Well, one team that does have a Pathfinder and doesn't have a Wraith, as I love to point out every single time that I've talked about them so far across this tournament,
it's wild.
Is VP. And you have to say the way that this circle is shifted has definitely helped VP in this situation, because they had such a tough rotation if it would have stayed by those train tracks.
Yeah, and then the reason for that is because you either go extremely extremely wide and slow, or you have to deal with the fodder between epicenter into the refinery itself, or you transfer a little bit more towards the center of the map, and it's Capital City, and I don't think we need to describe. Everybody has seen how challenging that Capital very much can be here, but Samsung Morning Stars has made their way out through the transition that Reciprocity should have been able to deny them, so a good outcome here so far for them into our mid game.
Yeah, not only Samsung Morning Stars there, but Potatoes managed to make their rotation out as well, so it looks like every team had left that checkpoint to move. Yeah, exactly. Move towards that final circle and towards the refinery end where it looks like it might be. Well, we're going to jump on board with Kick now, one of those teams who did manage to pick up a win yesterday and are still in some interesting positions as I look across our leaderboard at the moment. 7th place for Kick Esports, one of those teams just on that bubble with a big win and some kills along the way. They really could boost themselves up here.
Charged rifle secondary as well here for 90s. See if that's something that comes to light. One of the few final circles that actually might be valuable, at least here still for now, as we see the 4-8 by Sniper. Optics sitting on top of that. Only 3 shots available. Just going to be trying to find somebody ideally within that drop-off range.
And one thing that you do have with the charge rifle on the Gibby as well is the fact that you can be overextend maybe a little bit more than you would expect from other players, other characters that are using that sniper rifle. You have that extra HP, you have that arm shield. Like we've mentioned before, it allows you to just peek out from cover without worrying about getting knocked by a Kraber or something as crazy as that.
We saw the trade-off of the nerf that did come into the charge rifle, and part of the reason it is not heavily picked up anymore. Only 3 shots available here, but hold up, Reciprocity. I believe that's Luminosity that they're actually pincering into this little column there. No, Luminosity has transferred out here into the center subsection between those 2 major silos there on the back end of the refinery. So not going to be too pressured, though, as Desu sitting very low on her armor. Kraber here available for Pepega Squad, who have taken over Luminosity's own home.
Yeah, I love the play from Luminosity, though. I think they recognize the situation, not just in this particular game, but as a tournament as a whole. The longer that they can stay away from engagement, the higher the chance of their placement points being increased. And that's exactly all they have to play for at this point. Let the other teams do the damage. Let the other teams fight. We'll be quite happy just to keep our lead.
Yeah, no, it is very smart there. We were talking about whether or not Reciprocity will identify those things, but what about if you're in first? You also need to identify what are those effective ways of play.
Yeah, and what about if you're sandwiched between 2 teams as well? That's the only issue here for LG. At some point, they will have to rotate.
Yeah, and those 2 teams that are brewing are necessarily all the teams over that Peace Treaty T battle, right? Moving over from the western side, but then we saw Virtus Pro from the southeastern that will inevitably meet on that other column, and that is, again, the Luminosity sandwich that they are going to be trying to avoid here. But back with Samsung Morning Stars maintaining a bit more of the high ground sitting towards that epicenter. They feel like this has been pretty confidently their control as you see them ping there off to those yellow silos. And those, again, could be one of those final circles. But judging by the circle, I don't think that's going to be the case. A bit more, again, weighted towards that northeastern section.
So the ring will be closing now. VP set up just on the edge of the map, and not surprising to see with the way that they had to rotate across the map. They're not going to be able to get into a central position without having to take too many challenges themselves. So it looks like a very late rotation in here from VP, trying to play the edge of the zone. And to be honest with you, I kind of like this from VP. They have to put themselves in positions where they can clean up some kills and they could potentially be the real aggressors as the end circle closes.
And I like the positioning they took too, because it does allow them to basically have any fear of what's on your back. And you do have, there's 2 major rock establishments, and they aren't even full rocks, but just ledges to be the closest thing to quote-unquote high ground that exists here. And they basically have split PJ over onto 1, while the remainder of the squad maintain another. Watson up, and things do look very, very good. This next circle may be something that pressures them into a worse spot, but other than that, I think they're going to be fine. I think it's that final silo there. It's going to be right on top of that puppy.
Yeah, and I think it's Pepega Squad who are the team who are holding down the bottom of that. As we say, it's going to be interesting to see if VP or LG or Reciprocity, and it's very difficult to say, I had to take my time to get all 3 of those names out, are going to be able to maybe look to take that high ground, take the top of that silo as the ring collapses. But with 17 squads remaining, the last thing you want to be thinking about doing right now is ziplining up into the highest areas of the map when you've got so many teams looking at you.
Hold on, we got ourselves a 2 versus 3 attempt here, as that's going to be Taskmaster, for Hot Drops ends up going down, as we do see the heal does come through on the last target. 1 more shot through, and that's going to be Lazarus rating of them. 16 squads now do remain in a minute and 17, so they're going to be forced to make a transition, but this is where things are absolutely about to get nutty. Again, when they force into the next circle, it gets very, very tense, and we have 16 squads here still alive. VP on the outskirts will have to make a rotation due to their decision to sit on those outskirts for so long, and as you pointed out, it is Pepega Squadron who own the territory that is most valuable here now.
Yeah, and where this end circle usually ends up is just where Feldjan is looking here. It's just outside of this actual silo. So the difficult situation here is for Papega's squad. How do we rotate out? Because there's only going to be certain ways that they can escape. If a team does manage to get on that second level of the silo or onto the top level, they basically have to work their way through a choke point.
Yeah, I know. It's and even more so when considering that final silo, because you pointed out, it's not on top of it or even on. It's very close to that until the very final, and then it moves out. And because it moves out, winning the high ground, actually, if they're underneath you, can be very challenging to understand when do you drop down, because when you jump, it's 1 second of the freest shot I've seen in my life.
Yep.
So it actually is one of the more unique end circles, I feel like, when it comes to that final decision, when to commit, when not to. You want the high ground until basically you can't anymore.
So Cooler there are set up just inside of Refinery. That little corner there will be pretty safe from that enclosing circle, but there's going to be plenty of teams who are going to be working their way in here, trying to take any kind of position of power away from them. Na'Vi is one of those teams, and it looks like they're the team who are going to be trying to get aggressive onto, I believe, Cooler, who are holding down the top section of this Refinery.
Decent trade there at first coming out from Impulse, starting only 25%, almost 50 there onto his shieldings, but he'll be able to sell these things right out. The rest of the team looking to be able to back him up here as they may want to push on that northern doorway. Samsung Morningstars here trying to stop the epicenter transition as they ended up moving in here and gatekeep anybody on their way in. The circle should be able to force the damage enough to get a couple of kills. That's going to be the first to drop. They need as many as they can get here. Every part of that kill feed as we see everyone go down. What was 16 squads now is just 13. And it seems like in counting here on set.
Yeah, every single corner is going to have to be checked by every single squad at the moment as that circle encroaches towards our next circle. Reciprocity have managed to find their way towards this end circle once again. So just to paint the picture for you, as the final player, I believe, on the Potatoes is taken down there. Reciprocity, our second place team, still involved in this game. Luminosity still involved. Na'Vi still involved. And Virtus.pro, our top three, are still alive in this game.
And Na'Vi maybe has probably some of the better positioning looking into this, getting a lot of pressure there specifically onto Reciprocity. You saw them taking those chip shots from that northern end, or that upward end, and that was in fact, again, Na'Vi letting that unleash, as we do see 49 seconds out from what that final circle was, and it was the one on the outskirts of that silo. So we'll see if anybody tries to maintain that high ground, as we do see Wizen lose themselves a matey with a Peacekeeper shot. Na'Vi find one target into another. Peacekeeper shot number 2 is actually going to try and get the thirst here, not unable to find this third target.
And there it is. Managed to take down the team who have been consistently placing well but not picking up kills. And for Wizen there, that's bad news. They haven't got the placement. They haven't got those kills. They will not be putting pressure onto those top teams. As now we move over to Samsung Morningstars, who again are coming under all sorts of pressure, but somehow managing to eke out and stay alive.
15 seconds till the circle's going to close in, and they are very, very close here already to the outskirts. So they've bought themselves at most 5 seconds, it feels like. Gibraltar ultimate going down is likely going to limit that even more so. Portal is going to be available, but talking about portals, Na'Vi is going to be the first to drop theirs as Impulse makes his way over, decides to opt into the high ground, as we see there's already a Wraith portal here, as it is a full-on party.
Oh!
He goes into the counter portal, he's out in the circle, no! He tries to go back, he gets baited. What's going to happen here?
I think that's a ballsy play, and he's going back through the portal now. The Watson's in front of him, he manages to land the shot. Na'Vi are still alive here. Who is going to win this fight for this position on the map? It's going to be Na'Vi.
Somehow they do it, but it is not over yet here. They have to get all the armor swaps as you see them transition there over to blue. Virtus.pro waiting in the wakes here on the absolute outskirts, chipping away with those wingmen to everyone who made that exact same transition on the other side there. First kill coming in for Taylor. Arcstar should be able to connect.
The stick. He does get the stick.
There it is. He gets the break. One more shot. I cannot believe he didn't get the knock, but things look good for Virtus.pro.
Yeah, VP, for the amount of time that they've had to transition across this map, are now in what I would describe as the prime position, overlooking that final circle, overlooking all of the teams desperately fighting in to rotate. They can comfortably pick up some easy kill points as they take down another player, this time Gamers Origin.
Near flawless.
Goodbye, Gamers Origin.
Double thermite going on to Gamers Origin. Taylor rips them apart. The 3-man wipe, but the low ground still being controlled there in that silo. Na'Vi with the second tier control. They find a flank 29 there into the Jibby. As we see the self-res shield, they're out in the outskirts. Find their way back through that portal. VP is the focus here for Na'Vi, as they have a purple armor if wanted for a swap along there with a blue.
They're looking here.
So we're just going to slow this down a bit as the action is starting to pick up. 28 seconds. I don't imagine there's going to be too many team fights being won and contested at this point. It's all about spotting a player out, doing some damage, and trying to catch people rotating towards that end circle.
VP, the fact that Taylor is out of wingman shots is pretty concerning. They're very, very low when it comes to that. Na'Vi actually already taking shots here, trying to hide underneath the stairwell. Only one alive, and I believe that maybe Na'Vi, Virtus Pro dishing out that damage. They're the ones, again, only with the 99. This has got to be all they have. They have a lot to rely on.
And Na'Vi have managed to take down Reciprocity while all of this fighting's been going on. So our second place team have been taken out of this final battle.
5 squads remain, and Virtus Pro waste no more time. The prep that they put in there with that zipline is actually the Gibraltar getting in front of those shots, eating some of the bullets, but that is completely the full wipe now onto Na'Vi. 4 squads here now remain as Pepega Squadron from the low ground have to find a way out.
Manages to burn one player here, can't quite get the thirst onto it. Na'Vi, last player going to be taken down, like you mentioned. 4 squads remaining. Pepega Squad holding down this low ground, but you can see what we were talking about earlier. Now they only have that one escape point, and Wacko is still somehow alive here. It'd be interesting to see.
And that was the one on the outskirts. Somehow with the self-res, he is managed to keep himself alive. I don't think there's any way you can go for that self-res or he's inevitably dead, but the question is, does everyone else get too distracted?
How long can he stay alive, though? Can he stay alive long enough for other players to engage? Can he pop himself into a second place placement?
Rip it.
Just by hiding and staying alive?
Going outside this door. It's right behind the rock.
You hear him on the other side of the rock. They've identified it. Pepega Squadron want to try and make it happen. You see Forsaken moved over. He did take a tick of damage, now forcing him to get the syringe. They're going to get comfortable here. Look at that. Also, a Kraber picked up to deal with this fight into Virtus Pro. And ladies and gentlemen, there's still another squad somewhere here. We do have Reciprocity, the one member, but where's that 4th?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if it's Luminosity Gaming, because they were the ones who were probably closest to a rotation from what we saw before. It's actually Fnatic EU, so this could be a huge, huge swing of a game as far as points are concerned here. Badoli, the last man alive for his squad. Virtus Pro, in my personal opinion, have the control of this endgame.
Yeah, and it's going to be in that 35-second threshold when it really gets shown, and whether or not they are going to be able to close that out, because it will force that team here from the high ground.
Yeah, ziplines are set up here for VP as well if they want to traverse above that end circle. So they've got every single thing covered they can possibly want. The Watson ult down as well. Any grenades that are thrown up from that team below them, Pepega Squad, are going to be swallowed up.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we're talking about. If you do maintain that high ground, you have to jump down, and that's where it gets questionable.
Is so smart. This is so smart.
You have to jump into those, and I personally feel like the low ground wins this 90% of the time. What are they going to do if they do jump down from that? Bubble down, 2 seconds, time's up. Let's go on set.
Round 7 then, ring closing. Virtus Pro set up, Arc Stars at the ready. Here comes the push here from Pepega Squad.
Oh my god, where's the fucking...
Arc Stars at the ready as well, and here comes the portal through. VP waiting for the last moment. They go in, they get the stick onto his own teammate to do the damage. VP are dropping, but they all drop at the same time.
Virtus Pro end up losing everybody there, and they full drop. I do believe that it was going to be Pepega who ended up getting the shot through. But let's be honest here, no idea over that final collapse.
So many bodies piled up on top of each other. You can see it there, the amount of death boxes contained, and it's Fnatic do it! Badoli!
How did Baduli do that?
The ghost in the closet appears and scares everyone.
What? I refuse to believe this is true. Really? What? So he was hiding. Let's bring it back to when we did get that one glimpse at him. It was between a supply box, and originally I thought
He
that
must
was...
have been on the second level.
He had to have been between
Behind
them.
VP.
Like where we saw Na'Vi try and get on before, right?
Yeah.
When Impulse was hiding, like behind a supply box on the second floor through those one drops on both sides. What the heck?
Complete proof that if you can make it to endgame, anything can happen. We've seen it numerous times throughout this tournament so far. And Fnatic EU, well, let's have a look down through the leaderboards there. What's that going to do for them? Because they hadn't had the greatest of performances so far, and they were 11th before this game. Well, it seems to be these teams that we didn't see a lot from yesterday. Today is the day they're turning up.
Yeah, no, it definitely puts them in the ballpark conversation. I don't know if it's going to make it to where I go, is Fnatic EU going to walk away with a win? But they are, again, more relevant towards that conversation. Definitely if top 10, we'll bump them in that, but more so even top 5, which I can't help but feel like when you aim for this tournament with so many tough variables, top 5 is I'm pretty happy with ourselves. We did well if I have a high bar.
So Fnatic EU somehow managed to eke out a win. What did everybody on the desk think of that sneaky beaver?
I think it reminded me of our very first match for EMEA, where the ending was so hectic we weren't exactly sure who was taking it, and then it ended up being VP. In this case, it was Fnatic. Glitter, do you want to start us off?
I don't know what just happened there with Fnatic. That was impressive. I didn't realize that Fnatic still had one up on their team that he was able to rat out for so long.
I had a feeling it might have happened. When I saw the craziness, because there was a lot of trades between VP and Pepega Squadron. Now, how?
It was the guy with the shield that was down, right?
No, separate team.
Okay.
Team. Yeah. We
So
just
where
saw-
were they?
They were between a supply bin, a crate, and they had their back to the wall
Yep.
in that final zone. Yeah.
Okay. Because then they all jumped into the circle as it was getting as small as possible, and I mean, it was hard to make out exactly what
As
was going
Onstead
on.
said, it was VPs to lose.
Yeah.
They went for Suicide Arcstar. They had Thermites down. The Watson fences that they had also put down did get destroyed, but surprising to see those trades come in. We'd have to watch the VODs to know exactly how they went down, but definitely Virtus Pro not going to be feeling great.
Yeah,
about how
especially
that ended.
considering they were like waving up, right? And
Yes.
feeling quite proud of themselves at one point, and then it kind of went against them.
To be fair, leading up to that point, though, they did play a really, really good game. I know you were really
Yeah.
hyped on their positioning.
So one thing, we got to check in with VP a few times. We got to see them on Refinery, High Ground, around Overlook, which, if you remember yesterday, we saw them also doing during the Overlook and circles as well. So they have a very good knack for getting into those high ground areas, specifically around Overlook and Refinery, and then holding them down. And then, I mean, the amount of throwable damage.
The throwables at the end that they were throwing, they got 2 sticks. They had thermites that were just, they 3 or 4 people down by the end of it all.
Hundreds and hundreds
It was just-
of
they were
damage
just-
inflicted, which you don't see all the time.
They even had one of the frags hit. Like,
Yep, yeah.
they were perfect.
I'm interested to see how many kills Fnatic got over the
Me
course
too.
of that match. Did any of you manage to track at all?
I didn't see much Fnatic.
Well, they at least-
Yeah.
lead. I mean, dropping 2 players and then fighting in that one. But what did you catch?
No, actually, I don't think I, now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about the kill feed that I was watching.
We'll have to see. And once again, they were in 11th coming in, but as we saw with TSM yesterday, just because you get that win on the board, if you don't have the kill column adding up, it really isn't going to change the day that much.
Well, guys, I am told the scoreboard is ready, and it is quite the wild one. Let's get that up. Na'Vi
Wait.
in first place with 11 kills and only 4 placement points, but drawn in score.
That puts them at 5th, right?
It
4 placement
draws
points
them.
is
What?
5th.
It draws them with VP and Fnatic, who, again, due to their placement points plus kills, are also on 15 points. And then Papega in 4th with 13.
And this is particularly big because we also have Luminosity all the way in 13th. Right, so that is starting to open up once again. That's kind of what you guys talked about on the desk earlier. Glitter is what type of poor performances does it take from LG to open up the standings, and it's actually things like that. Now, as we look at
Look at the
full
lead!
Point.
standings.
See, this is what I was talking about.
6 points between VP and LG, second and first place, respectively. And RecPack, Reciprocity, are just 4 points behind VP. And if we go even further down, it's still close.
That 20-point lead is gone for LG.
That
They don't have it
20-point
anymore.
lead has vanished.
And Na'Vi taking a lot of those points with them, right? It's not going to put them within striking distance per se of a first place finish, but they took a lot of their points with them, which makes the top 3 even tighter.
It also puts them in a better position to at least take home some of the pot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty fantastic. I think the last thing we talked about together on the desk last night was that we hoped that the standings would look something like this at this stage for both Europe and North America. So we're in a pretty good place for some exciting last 2 games.
I think we are absolutely in the perfect place. This is the finish we all wanted to see. Ladies and gentlemen, just 2 matches left for EMEA here at the GLL Apex Legends series. It's going to be an explosive finale that you do not want to miss. We'll see you after this break.